Namaskar, Vanakkam, Bonjour. Pondicherry University wishes you a very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the Silver Jubilee campus and the UNESCO Madanjit Singh Institute of South Asia Regional Cooperation. I now invite our most respected Vice Chancellor, Professor J.K. Karim, Padma Shri, to kindly welcome the august gathering.
Sir, you have not only honored us, but you have further elevated the image of this India's fastest expanding central university during the life. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of the faculty, staff and students of Pondicherry University. I warmly welcome our Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Iqbal Singh Ji, and two of the most popular leaders of Pondicherry, Honorable Shri V. Narayanaswamy Ji and Honorable Chief Minister, and on his own personal request, the trustees and chairpersons of the various chapters could make it convenient to participate on this historic occasion. The trustees, Madam Franz Marco, Mr. N. Ram, Mr. M.K. Raina, Mr. Naveen Chawla, and the chairpersons, Dr. Kamal Hussain, former External Minister for External Affairs of Bangladesh, Professor Saliba Hashmi from Pakistan, Mr. Manishankar Ayar, Chairperson of India Chapter, Mr. Nishchal Pandey from Nepal, Mr. Limpo Sangye Nazo, former Prime Minister of Bhutan, Professor Veena Sikri, former Ambassador to Bangladesh, Dr. Syeda Hamid, Vice Chairperson of Staff, as well as Member of the Planning Commission, Mr. Ibrahim Hussain Zaki, former Secretary General of SAARC, are all with us today. I warmly welcome you all, sir. Ambassador Madanjit Singh has supported two centers of excellence on this campus, one of which is the UNESCO Madanjit Singh Institute of South Asia Regional Cooperation, and the second one is Madanjit Singh Center for Green Energy Technologies. This institute is a dream project of Ambassador Madanjit Singh to promote peace and cooperation among the SAARC countries, and we offer Masters and PhD programs, and students and scholars from all the SAARC countries come and study in this institute.
Sir, this new beautiful campus which you entered just now is called the Silver Jubilee campus, just built and completed exclusively as our cardinal principle to devote and promote teaching and research in social sciences and humanities, which has been our ambitious project of the Silver Jubilee celebration we just concluded. Now, we urge our beloved Prime Minister to dedicate this Institute of Madanjit Singh UMI SAARC for peace and South Asian regional cooperation, and also this exclusive campus for promotion of social sciences and humanities in India. Sir, this university has emerged as India's fastest growing central university with 300% growth in student, faculty, infrastructure, research output in just 5 years' time, rated as A grade and ranked 11th by India Today University Ranking Survey. It is also one of the most sought after universities of the country with 50,000 applications for 3,500 admissions. In the 12th plan, we targeted to double this strength from 6,000 to 12,000. This campus has got true national character with students from 32 states, including Kashmir, and faculty from 22 states. There are many firsts to this credit of this university. It is the first university in the country with 100% Wi-Fi enabled campus and 100% power backup. It provides free transport to students. It provides free accommodation to all girl students. It provides total free education to physically challenged students and 100% disabled friendly buildings, for which the Government of India gave us the Best Institution Award last year. Food subsidy to all students below creamy layer, free battery-operated cars and bicycles for commutation, free internet remote access. The sophistication of the laboratories is testified from the fact that scientists from IIT Chennai, IGCAR, Indian Institute of Science come here for analysis. The faculty have 48 patents. Just a few figures, sir. Women students increased from 613 to 2,183. Women faculty increased from 37 to 104. OBC, SC and ST students increased from just 262 to to 3,129 during past 5 years. Minority students grew 3 times. Research projects from 105 to 340. Students from 1,800 to 6,000. Faculty from 180 to 423. Built area from 92,000 square meters to 2,40,000 square meters. Teaching programs increased from 85 to 175. In brief, sir, I can only assure you that in the coming 5 years, this university has a potential to grow and figure under the top 300, at least the top 300 Asian universities. In my 45 years of service in higher education and having served at 2 universities as Vice Chancellor at Kashmir and on this university, I can boldly say, sir, an opportunity for all the universities in the country to develop and double their capacities, and we use it. I am proud to the maximum, and we thank the government under the visionary leadership and of our Prime Minister for promotion of higher education. Since there is no formal vote of thanks, I wish to place on record the contribution of all my colleagues, teaching and non-teaching, particularly Mr. Loganathan, my registrar, and his team for the success and working of this university. I welcome everyone, including the media persons. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. May I now call upon Sri Manishankar Iyer, Member of Parliament and Chairperson of the South Asia Foundation, to briefly give his introductory remarks.
Honorable Prime Minister, sir, Honorable Chief Minister, His Excellency the Lieutenant Governor of Pondicherry, Madame Marquet, representing the Founder President, Ambassador Madanjit Singh, Sri Narayan Samy, Member of Minister of State in the Prime Minister's Office, Vice Chancellor, and here in the audience, my distinguished colleagues, the former Prime Minister of Bhutan, who is the chairperson of our Bhutan branch, the former Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, who is the chairperson of our Bangladesh branch, the former Foreign Minister of the Maldives, who is the chairperson of our branch in the Maldives, Madam Salma Hashmi, who is a very distinguished cultural personality in her own right in Pakistan. But I hope she'll forgive me for mentioning that she's also the daughter of the renowned poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz. There's Saida Hamid, who is our vice chairperson, and Veena Sikri, Ambassador Veena Sikri, who's another of our chairpersons. And we also have among us the principal trustee, Sri N. Ram, who is also responsible for the Asian College of Journalism in Chennai, which receives scholars from the South Asia Foundation. Among others that we have here, we have Mr. Nishal Pandey of Nepal, and Siddiq Wahid, who has just recently been appointed the head of our Institute of Kashmir Studies in Srinagar. I mention all these, Mr. Prime Minister, to give you a flavor of the extent to which the Madanjit Singh Foundation, called the South Asia Foundation, has actually succeeded in giving practical shape to bringing together on a single platform distinguished personalities from all the different countries of South Asia. We have missing Chandrika Kumaratunga, the former president of Sri Lanka, who is the chairperson of the Sri Lankan branch. We also have missing our friend from the Ministry of Culture of Afghanistan, who heads our Afghanistan branch. And I'm happy to announce that we'll shortly be establishing ourselves in Myanmar as well, somewhat ahead of SAARC doing so. And therefore, perhaps we could claim that our organization is one step ahead of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. Mr. Prime Minister, sir, you will appreciate, as a very distinguished educationist in your own right, that while it is ultimately for politicians and statesmen to push forward the agenda of cooperation in any regional organization, including the South Asian Regional Organization. It is the intellectual foundations on which such cooperation is based that will determine the solid nature of such cooperation and the future of such cooperation. In many ways, tragically, South Asia, which does represent a fairly common civilizational entity, has been politically divided. So while history has divided us, geography keeps us together. And our purpose is not to attempt to undo the historical legacy, but rather to leap over the boundaries that history has placed on our subcontinent in order to understand the extent to which we are not merely Indians or Pakistanis, Bangladeshis or Maldivians, Nepalese or Bhutanese, but also South Asians. And that is why Ambassador Madanjit Singh calls this the Sasya story, the South Asian story. It is the story of a people who have a common past and have a common future, and yet who in the present have found themselves divided. It is not as if the divisions are without any basis. There are real issues to be resolved, and I think on behalf of the South Asia Foundation, I would not be exceeding my brief if I were to extend a special thanks and a special felicitation to you, Mr. Prime Minister, for having over the last 8 years worked so hard and, more importantly, so successfully in bringing about reconciliation and harmony on our subcontinent. There have been problems between our country and Sri Lanka. There has been the tension caused by recent developments in the Maldives. There are still certain problems that are outstanding with respect to Bangladesh. Afghanistan is a rather tender spot on our subcontinent. Myanmar is undertaking a transition, even as Nepal is undertaking a transition. But perhaps the most remarkable transition of all has been taking place in Bhutan, where voluntarily an absolute monarch has decided to convert his country into an absolute democracy. And within our own country, and of course with Pakistan, the ups and the downs are a daily occurrence. And yet through these very turbulent seas, you have been steering the ship of state in the direction of bringing about a reconciliation and a sense of harmony in South Asia, which would set the tone for Asia as a whole. For the fact of the matter is that of all the continents of the world, ours is the most divided. And this is strange because during the freedom movement, it was Jawaharlal Nehru who insisted that the freedom of India would not be complete unless all of the world were free. And that in that process, there should not only be a kind of restoration of self-confidence in our own heritage through the Asian resurgence, but that we should find a transformation in world affairs which would lead to Asia resuming once again the lead role that it has always had in history in the advancement of human civilization, bar the last 200 years or so. And therefore we had the Asian Relations Conference in March 1947 in New Delhi, even before we became independent. And yet the irony of it is that, leave alone unity in Asia, we have not even been able to secure unity in South Asia. And so much so that one of the most dangerous places in the world is generally regarded by the world to be South Asia, especially after both Pakistan and India became nuclear weapon powers. Yet the fact of the matter is that we have been making progress, thanks in large measure to the leadership that you yourself have given. And I think it would be true to say that never before in the last 65 years since we became independent has there been as much tranquility as there is in South Asia today. There are still enormous tasks to accomplish. In your highly competent hands, we hope that these will be accomplished, and not just accomplished in the distant future, but perhaps in the very immediate future. And to that endeavor, we would like to make our contribution. Our contribution is in the field of education primarily. It's in the field of attempting to see intellectually how we could move forward, whether this be in the area of media exchanges, whether it be in the area of culture, whether it be in the area of archaeology, whether it be in the area of environment, whether it be in the area of tourism. All these are issues that are covered by the 10 different institutes of excellence that Ambassador Madanjit Singh has founded, all the way from Kabul and Srinagar in the north, as well as in Bhutan and in Nepal, and then coming southwards through all the other South Asian countries. Lahore in particular I would like to mention, where Salima ji is doing as outstanding a job as your Foreign Office permits, sir, because we do have problems of having Indian students go across to Lahore and Pakistani students come across to India, which we hope we can use this occasion and this forum to request you to kindly make a little easier. In fact, I suspect that, that despite my lack of distinction in comparison to the Prime Minister of Bhutan and the 2 foreign ministers that we have here, I think I have been put into this position largely because, having been a consular officer in Karachi, I wield a kind of extra constitutional influence on the Indian Embassy in Islamabad to try and get visas for Pakistanis to come across here to India. But that is certainly an area in which you could help. And as always, if there was any financial assistance available from you, that would be more than welcome. At the moment, I must say, we depend entirely on the generosity of Ambassador Madanjit Singh, who, as he himself has said, has dedicated his health, wealth and happiness to the future of South Asia. And therefore, I'm sorry that he's not present among us, but Madame France Marquet is with us, and she brings with her his good wishes to you, sir, personally, and to the South Asia Foundation, and a very special thanks to Professor Jalis Tareen, who has not done a good job of work, but I would say a miraculous job of work here in Pondicherry University and for our institute here of South Asian Regional Cooperation. This is the institute that is most directly connected with promoting peace and development among the South Asian countries. Our other institutes tangentially approach this issue, but this is the institute on which we would rely to ensure that all the countries of South Asia are educated about the great benefits to be obtained from converting confrontation into cooperation. So thank you very much, sir, for having taken time off to be with us today. We do appreciate that fitting this into your program has been something of a logistical nightmare, but that you have arrived here this afternoon and been able to find the time to spend time with us is for us a special source of not only honor but also encouragement. With this kind of patronage, I'm sure the South Asia Foundation will succeed in actually achieving the extraordinarily high objectives that Ambassador Madanjit Singh has set for us. Your personal friendship with him is a valued asset for ourselves, and we hope to go forward with both your patronage and your encouragement. Thank you very much, sir. Jai Hind, Jai Dakshin Asia.
Thank you, sir. Madame France Marquet, Trustee, South Asia Foundation, has joined us all the way from Nice, France. She will now read us the message from Shri Madanjit Singh, UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador.
It is unfortunate that Madanjit Singh's health prevents him from personally attending this very important function. He was so much looking forward to celebrating this. Respected Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh Ji, Lieutenant Governor, Chief Minister, Ministers, Vice Chancellors, my dear staff colleagues and friends, allow me to read Madanjit Ji's speech. At the outset, may I say that as with Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was instrumental in setting the tone of my lifelong dedication to arts and culture, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has encouraged me to promote regional cooperation in South Asia. In his introduction to my book, The Sasha Story, he wrote, Since I had the pleasure of inaugurating Sumitra Foundation, established by Madanjit Singh in January 1995, I retain an interest in the work of the two organizations established by Madanjit, the Sumitra Foundation and the South Asia Foundation. I have watched as the South Asia Foundation has worked to enlarge the scope and dimension of its activities in search of common cultural, educational, and economic denominators to strengthen cooperative initiatives throughout South Asian region. I was inspired by Dr. Manmohan Singh's several letters in support of establishing cultural and educational institutions of excellence to promote interaction among the peoples of South Asia. In a letter dated 11 December 2006, he complimented SAF for offering group scholarship to young people from SAARC countries and promised to streamline visa to students. I would be grateful if the governments of India and Pakistan acted speedily to resolve some irksome visa issue by removing the bureaucratic and political obstacles so the students can go and study in SAF institutions of excellence in other countries for the duration of their courses and benefit from the experience. I am happy to announce that this year students from Pakistan will be able to attend our institutions in India, and we thank all the people who work tirelessly for this. The scope and dimension of SAF, Madanjit Singh Group Scholarship Program, which is based on gender equality, has considerably expanded since SAF decided to fund the UNESCO Madanjit Singh Institute for Afghanistan Cultural Heritage in Kabul, which was inaugurated in 2006. Since then, SAF has split $1 million each of the 11 more institutions set up in all the 8 SAARC countries. Dr. Manmohan Singh would be pleased to know from our distinguished SAF chairperson about the impressive strides taken by the institution in Bangladesh, Bhutan, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan and Sri Lanka, as well by the Indian institutions in Pondicherry, Chennai, and particularly at the University of Kashmir in Srinagar. This is fully in conformity with the message of the Prime Minister so kindly sent on its inauguration. Quote, "The initiative to resuscitate the age-old traditions of Kashmir and to establish an institution which will serve as a melting pot of ideas and learning involving young people and others, not only from the state and other parts of the country, but also from the neighboring countries of the Indian subcontinent, it's timely. I hope the Institute contributes to strengthening the composite Sufi Bhakti Rishi culture of Kashmir." SAFLI is greatly indebted to former Prime Minister Inder Gujral, whose invaluable contribution to India's neighbor policy and regional relation, called the Gujral Doctrine, for harmonious relations among South Asian countries. Before handing over the SAF Indian chairmanship to Manishankar Iyer, who was Union Minister of Panchayat and Sports at the time, Gujralji strongly counseled that SAF chapter must be autonomous and guided by their respective chairpersons. SAF, may I say, has been extremely fortunate in the stature and quality of its leadership across South Asian region. Among the first chairperson of the SAC Governing Council, Dr. Kamal Hussain formulated the SAF Constitution. He assisted Bangla Bandhu Mujibur Rahman in drafting the secular constitution of Bangladesh. Another SAF chairperson, Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Lakshman Kadir Gamar, sacrificed his life trying to resolve ethnic conflict between the Tamil and Sinhala communities. He was succeeded by no less than former Sri Lankan President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga. For Afghanistan, Dr. Syed Makhdoom Rahim, Minister of Information and Culture, has been a pillar of support for Pakistan. SAF has been fortunate to have as its chairperson Professor Salima Hashmi, doctor of the celebrated poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz, among other things. She has taken the lead in promoting secular and democratic ideals to the art and cultures and worked tirelessly for better Pakistan-India relations. For Bhutan, we have been privileged to have the former Prime Minister Lyompo Sanginggedup, who facilitated his country's transition to elective democracy and worked actively to develop its free media news. For the Maldives, Ibrahim Hussein Zaki, former Planning Minister and SAARC Secretary General, and an intrepid fighter for democratic rights. For Nepal, Ambassador Beg Bahadur and subsequently his wife, Dr. Rita Tapa, who handed over the SAF Nepal chair to Nishal Pandey, a dynamic officer bearer who joined SAF at its inspection. I would also like to mention the fine contributions of Veena Sikri, Saida Hamid, Naveen Chola, M.K. Raina, our trustees N. Ram and Franz Marquet. Thank you all very much for finding the time to attend the inauguration of the UNESCO Madanjit Singh Institute for South Asia Regional Cooperation, Madanjit Singh.
Merci, Madame, pour le message si éloquent. And now the most awaited moment, our revered Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, will now address us and dedicate this institute to the South Asian peace and cooperation. Sir.
My esteemed friend and colleague Thiru V. Narayan Swami ji, Lieutenant Governor Dr. Iqbal Singh ji, Honorable Chief Minister Shri N. Rangasamy, Madam Franz Marquet, Shri P. Kannan, Vice Chancellor Professor Tarim, Shri Mani Shankar Iyer, Mr. Sangi Nedu, Dr. Kamal Hussain, Mr. Ibrahim H. Zaki, Professor Salima Hashmi, Shri Nischal Nath Pandey, Shri N. Ram, and I see so many distinguished personalities. It's very difficult for me to mention each one of them, but I consider myself being very fortunate in such august company dedicated to the cause of peace and development of South Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to be here at the UNESCO Madanjit Singh Institute for South Asia Regional Cooperation for Peace and Development. I am sorry that ill health has stood in the way of Shri Madanjit Singh being with us this evening. I extend a warm welcome to Madam Franz Marquet, his companion of many years and trustee of the South Asia Foundation. I request her to convey to Madanjit our felicitation and good wishes for a speedy recovery to normal health. Ladies and gentlemen, in a few weeks from now, we will celebrate the 65th anniversary of India's independence. The struggle for freedom from colonial rule was infused with high sense of idealism that joined together the people not only of this subcontinent of ours, but also those in other parts of Asia and Africa. But the euphoria and excitement of freedom was tempered by the human tragedy that accompanied it. As a young man, Madanjit Singh witnessed with his own eyes the trauma and horror of partition, as did many of us of that generation. Whenever I meet South Asians from different walks of life, they always speak of their desire to see our countries live together in peace and work together for our common progress. I can think of no other individual who has invested more to achieve these cherished goals than my friend Madanjit Singh. In the year 2000, Madanjit Singh set up the South Asia Foundation to provide a platform for well-meaning men and women from all the countries of our region to contribute their might to the vision of a progressive South Asia. The South Asia Foundation seeks to promote regional cooperation through the UNESCO Madanjit Institutions of Excellence that have been established in various countries of South Asia. Each of the chapters is headed by an eminent personality from that country, 6 of whom are present here in Puducherry. I extend a very warm welcome to each one of these distinguished citizens of South Asia. I was delighted to learn that very soon Myanmar will also have a chapter of the foundation. I was in Myanmar recently and was impressed by the enthusiasm and the interest of the people of Myanmar to strengthen and promote links with other countries of South Asia. This institute in Puducherry was set up as one of the centers of excellence nearly 3 years ago. I commend the University of Puducherry for hosting a center that will focus on South Asia studies. It is ironic that many universities in the West have chairs or centers that focus on South Asia. But here in our own region, we have so few of them. I have often felt that the citizens of South Asia have to start communicating and understanding each other through direct contact rather than through Western academic constructs or prisms. The South Asia Foundation provides an excellent platform for doing precisely this. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is passing through troubled times. The financial and economic crisis that has gripped Europe in recent years has many important lessons and implications for us. The economic and political rise of post-war Europe was in no small measure due to the vision of thinkers like George Marshall and Jean Monnet. They believed that a stable, prosperous, and united Europe was good for the world. That is as true today as it was then. I sincerely hope that the leaders of Europe will find in them the imagination and wisdom to preserve the European project that has served as a guiding light to regional cooperation elsewhere in the world, including South Asia. The events in the Eurozone should not cast a shadow over our own efforts at building unity and eventually a South Asian Union. If anything, we have not been ambitious enough in working towards building a united South Asia, where each of our country seeks its economic and social salvation through cooperative development within the region and by leveraging each other's strengths. We have many men and women of talent and creativity amongst us. They should pool their wisdom and work to remove the mental and other roadblocks that are preventing the people of South Asia from realizing their true destinies. Friends, India is fully committed to the idea of SAARC. In recent summit meetings, I have found a genuine desire among South Asian leaders to write a new chapter in the history of this organization. I'm very happy that important initiatives that symbolize the idea of South Asia are taking shape. The South Asia University has started its work and will soon have its own full-fledged campus just outside Delhi. The SAARC Development Fund has become operational and has started implementing projects under its social window. We, however, need to cooperate more closely to critically understand issues relating to food, energy and water security, disaster management, health and education, and address these issues from a holistic and regional perspective. Connectivity is also still lagging far behind where it should be. India stands fully committed to building a better connected SAARC as a strong and effective instrument for regional cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, since I mentioned Jean Monnet earlier in my remarks, I am reminded that he once wrote, and I quote, "Nothing is possible without men, but nothing is lasting without institutions." In conceiving of and realizing the UNESCO Madanjit Singh Institute for South Asia Regional Cooperation, Madanjit Singh has given us an institution that I am confident will stand the test of time and provide a valuable service in our common goal of building a better and closer South Asia. I thank each one of you. Thank you.